Hello, Steady Eddie here. Friday, the 13th of September. I'm going soon for my 13th session of radiotherapy. Can't be a coincidence that, and I have to wear a mask that looks like Jason out of those movies. Oh my God Almighty! Something bad's going to happen today. So anyway, in this video, I want to voice my opinions of the NHS, which is in the news once again, the National Health Service. Now, I think it's always in the news, never very far away. Everyone knows that there's a crisis there. I've very rarely used the NHS in my adult life. And recently, I spent 6 weeks in a NHS hospital and 10 days in a care home. What was I doing there? Funded for by the NHS. So let me clear up something first of all. Some people have suggested, some snide people, in a minority, because most of the people in the comments section on these videos are being really great, supportive. Some snide people have suggested that some of the videos I made when I was in Thailand, I slagged off the UK. Well, that's subjective, that. The word slagged off, that's subjective. What you may see as me slagging off, I see as voicing my opinions, realistic opinions. So that's subjective, that. But somebody posted a comment to say, that this guy slags off the UK, and like a true hypocrite, he comes back here when he needs hospital treatment, for free, to use the NHS for free. Well, that is colossally almighty. Wrong. It's wrong. I do not get the NHS for free. I get the NHS because I paid for it over decades through national insurance. And it's the third time in my adult life that I've actually stayed in a hospital bed. I've got run over knocked down by a car when I was 7 years old. So I was in hospital then. But in the first time in my adult life, I actually stayed in a hospital bed. So I've never really used it. But as for getting it for free, well, let's get something straight. Last year, I got a letter to say that I've qualified for a full state pension, which happens when I'm 67. So that's 5 years away now. I'll never see it, of course. But I've qualified for the full state pension. Now, you only qualify for the full state pension when you've contributed 35 years at least of national insurance. And that's why I qualified. I've paid national insurance for at least 35 years, which means that my stay in the hospital is I've paid for that over the years. So it's not free. It's not free. So people like that who make comments like that, oh, I don't know. I can do a hand gesture, but you know what I mean. Anyway, it's been in the news again, the national health, because well, I'll just read something that's on the internet now. Why is the NHS in crisis? An extremely low level of beds in hospitals, together with the abandonment of community hospitals, professional morale at an all-time low, with staff feeling undervalued. The health service has been facing years of inadequate planning, and basically, I'm one of those people. I've gone through life without ever using hospitals. Only, on occasions, I've used hospitals on occasions. I'm one of these people who never gets injuries or illnesses. And then at 62 years of age, I got diagnosed with glioblastoma. And I ended up in a Thai hospital and then come back here to use the NHS. But about my stay in the NHS hospital. No, I was reluctant. I was dreading it because I thought I was hearing these reports of people waiting on stretchers for hours and hours and hours, because there was no beds. I mean, I was bedbound for 6 weeks in hospital, and then they moved me for 10 days to a care home, and now I've got radiotherapy. I'm going to hospital today for session 13 of a 30 session radiotherapy um, treatment. And what I can say about the NHS right now, the hospital that I was in Devon, is that it's the staff there, the morale is not low. It's quite high. I mean, the staff there do a great job. I mean, they do a great job. I mean, the nurses who attended to me when I was bedbound, I've got nothing but good things to say about them. Not all of them. There's bound to be one or two who are bad eggs. I mean, some of them have a bad, a tiny, tiny proportion of them have a bad attitude. And 95% of them is good as gold. It would be unrealistic, to say that 100% of those staff were fine. But, because there's a couple there that I didn't like. But most of them, in fact, nearly all of them do a great job. And they work hard, those people. They work damn hard. So the NHS, I've had limited experience of it, but my experience was, I mean, went to Derriford Hospital and they operated, they gave me a brain surgery. I arrived in Derriford on the Tuesday. I had brain surgery the following day, and they got all of the cancerous mass out. They weren't sure that it was cancerous at the time, but they got it all out. And I remember those words after being 3.5 hours on an operating table, unconscious, waking up, and the surgeon said to me, "Edward, wake up. It went well." And believe me, I've never been so. I heard those words, yeah, after being out with whatever was in my brain. And they said they got it all out. And then a couple of weeks later, they analysed, what they had to analyse, and told me that it's 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 stage 4 cancer, and it will definitely come back. And the clock is ticking for me. So there's nothing that I can do about that. But the hospital, it cost a fortune. The national health. It's anything between 120 billion a year and 160 billion a year. Now, there's other ways that if government wastes so much money. The last government wasted 300 million on a Rwandan farce, which is being scrapped. They've wasted hundreds of millions. They've probably wasted billions. I mean, the national health. I'm just glad that we've got it in this country. Because we take it for granted. That it's there. I mean, other countries, they have to pay for their health service. They have to pay money that they can't afford. And some countries have heard, poor people are afraid to go to hospital because they simply can't afford it. Here, I've been brought up at the NHS, even though I've hardly ever used it. Never really used it much in my adult life until now. But I'm just glad that it's there. It saved my life, but then temporarily. But nothing they can do about it. Nothing they can do about it. What's gonna happen? In the next year or so, within the next year, I don't know. But yeah, I support the NHS. I paid for it through my national health. Sorry, my national insurance contributions over the years. So I wouldn't like to pay for that treatment because, I mean, once you pay for the treatment, I think all the money that the governments waste, without going into detail, and we all know that the governments waste a lot of money. They waste a lot of money in other countries. They should prioritize this one. They should keep the national health, whatever it takes to bail the national health out. They should plow all the money into that. I mean, I wouldn't mind paying a bit more tax for the national health, and I'm not rich. I mean, the rich people of this country. own probably about 95% of the wealth, or whatever whatever that is. I mean, sure they won't mind paying. Well, they will mind because they're probably very very tight and selfish. But I'm sure that they will agree to pay a bit more. But if our governments didn't waste so much money on stupid things like Rwanda and helping other countries out. Why are we helping other countries? I mean, this is England. This is important, and prioritise people. For the national, if there's a queue for the national health, then prioritise people who paid into the system over the years, like I have. Like I have, I've paid for the right to use the national health. Others haven't. Let them go to the back of the queue and put the likes of me and probably you first. Yeah, So anyway, I don't know. It's morning. It's Friday the 13th. So let me just say that I support the national health, and I think everything should be done to keep it going, to keep it non-payment, a non-payment for people who paid their national insurance. So enough said. I'm uh, I'm drinking a coffee, and I'm going for my 13th radiotherapy session on Friday the 13th, wearing a mask. Okay? Have a nice weekend.